Good evening, everyone. We're on, are we?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone. At this time, I'd like to ask for a motion to come out of executive session.
So moved.
And a second, please. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then I'd like a motion to seal the minutes of executive session. You have a motion?
Motion, so moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. Thank you. Okay, Town Council regular meeting, 7 o'clock. Mrs. Lavoy, if I could ask for a roll call, please?
Glenn Shibley,
I'm here.
Greg Labasanier.
Here.
Kerry McGee.
Here.
Karen Carlson.
Here.
Deborah Bacon.
Here.
Graham Waters.
Present.
Dan,
Dave.
Dave D'Agostino.
I'm present.
Very good. Mr. Spearman, if I could ask you to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can we take this, do you want? Okay.
If you'd stand just for a short invocation, please. Is it on? Is it on? Yeah? Okay. Lord, help us to do a good job tonight. Help us to make the right decisions. Keep our military and our deployed people in our prayers. Keep the people of New York in our prayers tonight. And thank God that nothing really serious happened today. And have everybody a happy and very Merry Christmas and a happy and healthy New Year. Amen.
Amen. And Mr. Spearman, if you could just brief us on the emergency evacuation plan if needed? Thanks, Karen. Okay, thank you, Mr. Spearman. All right, President's comments, I just have a couple tonight. One, I would like to acknowledge receiving a beautiful Christmas card sent to our town from our sister city, Coventry, England, from the Lord Mayor, Councilor Tony Skipper, and Mrs. Karen Skipper. Now, it came this past week. It talks all about the coat of arms, which is very similar to ours. I believe I had the opportunity to meet the Lord Mayor a few years ago when his delegation came to Coventry, and we wish him. I don't have the, if you can see it, the uniform that he has. We don't have the budget, but it was nice receiving it from Coventry, England. And on that note, I do wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I can't believe it's 2 weeks away from today. Also, I'd like to wish those that celebrate Hanukkah a Happy Hanukkah, which actually starts tomorrow at sundown. Lastly, I noticed that the Coventry Regional Career and Technical Center had a nice advertisement in our reminder, December 5th issue, where they've listed several parent-student information workshops, going around to different towns as well, and just spreading the good word of what Coventry High School has to offer at their Career and Technical Center. So we wish them luck. The first one, I think, is, it's listed as tomorrow at the Coventry High School Naughty Oak Room, 6 p.m. So anyone interested, if they're in middle school, they have children in middle school, or even in elementary school, it's never too soon to start thinking about furthering their education. And basically, I had another announcement, but it's not going to be relative tonight, so I'll pass on that one. Next, we have council district updates, and usually I start to my right. Maybe I can start to my left. Mr. Councilman Labasanier.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just wanted to mention that this past Saturday I had my first of three town hall discussions, community think tank. We had, I don't know, about 16 people or so, and I thought it went very well. We had some great discussions, some good points that I brought forward to the manager, and other than that, I reiterate to the president's comments of wishing everybody a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and enjoy the holidays with your families. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Carlson, District 1.
Good evening, and again, as usual, it's great to see those benches filled. Welcome, and there is public comment at the end of the meeting, and everybody's welcome to comment. As far as, I have a great announcement for ROTC. The drill team, which, by the way, is now Navy, go Navy, the ROTC drill team participated in their final drill meet of the season, Saturday, December 16th, in Newport at Rogers High School. They took first place in armed regulation, second place in armed color guard, second place in armed exhibition, and second place in armed inspection. The unit is waiting to hear where they're placed for all of southern New England, and when I find out, I'll let you know. And on to nationals, we hope in the spring. So go Navy. Okay. On not quite as light a note, I have received, and I know Mr. Waters also received in a quite lengthy email this morning from one of our residents out in Green who's, I can't use the word, I'm seriously suffering from the flicker effects, and I'm hoping that we're actively looking to try to help the residents out there, the taxpayers who are suffering from the 10 turbines, between the noise, the infrasound, and the flicker. This has to be resolved. And 30 hours, they're getting 30 minutes or more on sunny days, May, June, July, and most of August. 30 minutes or more on sunny days from turbine 2, September, end of February, and all of March. So it just goes on, and it's not stopping out there. Other than that, I think that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Bacon, District 5.
I just also want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McGee?
Yeah, just have a
District-
couple things.
Three?
First, I'm thrilled that we have a Navy ROTC, but me being an Army guy, I'm glad we had an Army-Navy football game this weekend. It was Go Army, so that was good. But anyway, January 13th, I'm planning a town hall type style meeting. We'll get together like we had. I'm going to be doing it with Mr. Labasse there. So I remind everybody from District 3 and District 2 that want to attend, feel free. It's going to be done right here. We'll have coffee and donuts, and we are going to put it out there via social media and a reminder and let everybody know. Also, I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, because I don't believe we'll see everybody before the holidays. And also, I want to give a shout out to the DPW. It was nice getting up Sunday morning and having the roads were clear right down to the pavement. So it was a good job with your staff, and I thank you for that. That's it.
Okay, thank you. District 4, I went by today and I noticed that the mill workers' house has finally been raised. And it's a long time coming on Washington Street, but Vinagro was out there and did a nice job. I assume they're almost done, but I'll go by tomorrow. It was basically a dangerous situation and an eyesore, and was beyond repair. So had a lot of good history, but we have to face the future, and that was not part of it. So basically, that's it on District 4 as far as my update goes. And next, Mr. Waters, I think I'll turn it over to you on B4.
Yes, so it was requested by a couple of town council members to have a representative from National Grid here tonight. We have Marisa Albanese. She's over on to my right. Everybody else in the audience is to your left. She'll be doing a presentation on the rate increase as well as the after-storm National Grid's storm response to the storm we had a few weeks ago that knocked out a majority of power in town. I don't know if do you have which one you're doing first? Storm response first. And Cody, is there any way we can get that up on here? Is it? Okay. Can you push the screen back so the council can see as well?
Or we could just get
It does, well.
If it moves a foot or two, we probably could see. Or you're welcome to move. That's good. Everybody see?
Thank you.
Good evening. Yep.
My name is Marisa Alvarez. I'm a community and customer manager at National Grid. There are actually 4 people in my group. I'll give you a little bit of a background on National Grid and what we do. Really quickly. So Coventry is one of the towns that I manage, and what that means for us at National Grid is we handle everything from if Kevin calls me and tells me we need a new pole of the DPW office and connect some wallers and vehicles like we did last year. I'll work on that. I could be working on a wind turbine project. We could be working on storm response. I could be working with the town treasurer regarding billing issues. So it kind of runs the gamut. And my group also manages the top 50 customers in the state. So there's a community and customer manager for every city in town. Just in general, National Grid serves in territories in the U.S., New York, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts. In Rhode Island, we have over 490,000 electric customers and about 67,000 gas customers. Thank you. I apologize, I have a cold. I'm usually much louder than this. We have 6,000 miles of electric lines and over 3,200 miles of gas main in the state, and we employ about 950 employees. So as I was saying, we have a dedicated staff for Rhode Island. There are 4 members on my team, 2 of whom are my colleagues are with me tonight. Jacques Afonso, who covers the East Bay, Laurie Spangler, who actually lives in town and covers Northern Rhode Island, and Paul Stazak's not with us, but he covers Washington County. During storms, our regular community liaisons are supplemented by storm liaisons that go out into every city and town, and during this past storm, Wendy Carrera and Jess Hermanowski were at the Coventry EOC with Colonel Mack and Chief Brown and the rest of your support staff for the storm. So a little bit about the October 30th storm. Before a storm, National Grid exercises emergency response plans year-round, and we classify storms the same way that FEMA does. So for us, a Type 1 storm is the highest level storm we can get. A Type 5 storm, which is what we call a normal occurrence. For example, the other night we had a little bit of wind and snow, and we had a couple motor vehicle accidents. That's handled by our local crews without any support. So when we looked at preparing for the October 30th storm, as much of our colleagues did on the East Coast, we were preparing for a Type 3 event. So a Type 3 event, we think we can get power back on in less than 3 days. We can do it with 20 of our line crews and 10 forestry crews, and we had all of those folks on staff in preparation for that storm. Mid-afternoon on Sunday, as the wind started to kick up, the storm really shifted track and was hitting the internal areas more than the coastline. We started calling for our municipal aid crews, and what those are crews that we have contracts with in Region 1, which goes all the way from Maine down to Pennsylvania, and we started calling for crews. So across the Northeast, all of the utilities that thought they would need help on Monday reserved 4,600 crews for the entire Northeast region. Of that, on Monday, we had 35 that were available. That's because of the intensity of the storm, how widespread it was, and some of the utilities that we have mutual aid agreements with, believe it or not, still have crews that are working in Texas and Florida. Even though you don't hear about that right now, they're still out repairing all of that damage. So we knew that we needed more crews, and then we reached out to our second region, which is the Midwest and as far away as Colorado. We had crews from Colorado, Mississippi. The first crews that arrived here on Tuesday night were from Virginia, and they started to work to respond right away. So during a storm, we have 3 phases of storm response. As always, every day of the storm, our primary role is public safety. So we want to make sure that the public is safe, that our workers are safe, We address wires down as quickly as we can. We address streets that are blocked by trees with wires in them, and anything that has life endangerment. So if someone's trapped in a car with a tree on it and a wire on it, we get out to those right away. And we start on damage assessment. Those two really happen at the same time. As soon as it's safe enough for our representatives to be out in the field, we're out doing damage assessment. We also do that with helicopter flyovers of our transmission lines and people that are on the ground as well. One thing to remember is that when we're out doing public safety, sometimes you'll see a van or a small National Grid car sitting near a wire. They're there to help relieve your first responders. So if Chief Brown calls me and says, look, I've got a fire truck sitting on a wire down across the road, can you send somebody to relieve them? That's what we try to do first. But we have to do that statewide, so sometimes it takes a little bit of time for that. And then we can start the restoration process. So when we restore power, we have to start from the largest level down to the smallest. If we have transmission lines that are out, those are the ones we work on first. Then we work on substations that might be flat. So substations that serve your area, there's one on Hopkins Hill, but most of them are outside of Coventry proper. And so when we have substations that are flat or lines that are flat, you might look at a street and a pole in front of your house and you might see a fuse that's open and say, gee, they could just pop that fuse back in. But there might be damage all along that feeder. And some of the feeders that serve Coventry are over 80 miles long. So we have to patrol that entire feeder before we can get back to put the power on it at an individual house. And that's what takes the most time. So at the height of the storm, we had 154,000 customers out. By the next day, we had already restored 45% of those. And by the fourth day, we had 91% of the customers back in service. Some of the things that we experienced, this was the third worst storm we've had in the last 6 years. Believe it or not, we had more damage to equipment than we did during Hurricane Irene. So with Hurricane Irene, we had some huge transmission lines that were down. We could pick up 40,000 customers all at once. This storm was really, the damage was scattered. We had 170 poles to replace, and those take on average between 2 to 10 hours to put back a pole and fully dress it, which is reattach the wires, put a transformer up, a street light, or whatever it needs on it. And we had to install 3 miles of brand new wire, not just wire that we could easily replace. I talked about the community liaisons. Our role is to be kind of the conduit between National Grid and public officials, and we do that on a day-to-day basis. During a storm, we have a community liaison that will sit right in your emergency operations center, and that person's role is to communicate with your emergency management director. So for Coventry, that's Colonel Mack and Chief Brown, and Wendy was here doing that as soon as Tuesday. And then what she would do is take the top concerns coming from the community, feed those back to us at the office so that we can direct crews and other equipment that you might need. Another tool that we have is our community assistance van, and we rolled that out to Coventry on Wednesday, I believe, when we knew that we still had customers out in a pocket. In one neighborhood, we rolled the van out to the Parks and Rec department, and we had it in their parking lot for a while so that customers could come up and see it. And I want to thank you for promoting that on social media. We had a couple customers that came up and asked us questions, and that's a good way to get information. And we also have resources on the van to charge phones. We have a satellite TV on the van, so we can bring up our outage map and you can see exactly what's going on in the community. Does anyone have any questions on that before I jump over to the rate filing? I know they're two totally separate topics. No? Okay. So you've probably seen in the paper that we are in the process of a rate filing. The current filing is for an increase in our gas and electric distribution rates. One thing I want to stress is that when you look at your bill, and I know there are thousands of line items on the bill, because we itemize everything, the distribution rates are what we charge to deliver service to your home. And the supply rates are what you buy from a supplier. Even if you purchase natural gas or electricity from us, we don't mark up those charges. That's a straight pass through to customers. And I like to explain it. The easiest way to explain it is, right now you're probably all online doing Christmas shopping like me, because I don't want to stand at the mall at a register. So you can buy your item wherever you want it. You can buy something from Target, you can buy something from Amazon, and we don't care who delivers that on the transmission side, right? UPS can drop it off, FedEx can drop it off. We're like the local post office. Once it gets to our city line or our city gate on the gas side, or to our distribution system on the electric side, then our role is to deliver it to the customer. And that's the increase that we're looking for on this. Base rates cover our core operating expenses, and despite increased costs of business, including things like healthcare, our rates have held steady since 2012. And so we're really aggressive, even on the employee side, on our healthcare benefits. Everyone thinks National Grid has premium benefits, and we have great benefits. I won't deny that, but employees contribute to their benefits just like everyone else does at their workplace too. So while we're always trying to hold down costs internally, sometimes we do have to have a rate increase. So included in our proposal, there are 4 main points I'd like you to remember. One is that we're redesigning our low-income rates for income-eligible customers. Right now, they're a bit complicated. You have to qualify for a certain program to be on the low-income rate, but there's a lot of paperwork to fill out, and it's a bit cumbersome, and they're in multiple steps on different programs. So we're proposing that customers have a flat percentage decrease of their overall bill, and we're going to make sure that we have ways that customers can engage with us so that they know if they're eligible for a rate or not. We're expanding our workforce locally on both the electric and the gas side to support not only increased distributed generation projects, which are things like solar farms and wind, and electric vehicles, all of that infrastructure that has to be put in place, but also on our pipeline safety and our electric safety programs. It also includes some items for cybersecurity, which is something where the costs are increasing exponentially every year, and our IT modernization, so that you'll be able to do things like request a turn on and track that online, or request a shut off or a new service, any of the services that we provide, you'd be able to do that online. And we also have a whole suite of programs that are tied to the governor's Power Sector Transformation Initiative. So the governor has, and the state of Rhode Island have, very aggressive goals for reducing our carbon footprint by 2020, and we've got a suite of proposals that address that. All of this information, if you have insomnia like I do and would love to read the filing, it's available on the PUC website, or if you're interested in a certain section of it, you can search by topic, and that would pop up on the filing as well. A little bit about the impact. If the filing is approved, rates would go into effect in September 2018. Overall, the impact is about an average increase of 6% on the electric side, and 5% on the gas side, and of course that depends on how much you use. So one thing that I really like to remind customers of is, you can control to some extent what you use, and if you haven't taken advantage of any of our energy efficiency programs, please do so. You pay for that as a part of your bill, and it's worth investing in those. We just opened a new energy innovation hub in downtown Providence. It's located right at the Dunkin' Donuts Center. I'll give you the Rhode Island directions. It's on the Holiday Inn side of the building, across from the Starbucks. So come in and visit us at any time. That's a really good place to learn about all the programs that we offer, how much money you can save. And I know sometimes it sounds tedious, like, oh, someone's going to come to my house and do an assessment. How long could that take? Well, if you're like me, I think, that means they want to go in the attic, I have to take the clothes out of the closet, I have to pull the ladder down, someone has to get up there. But really, it only takes about an hour and a half, and at the very least, you wind up with new LED light bulbs if you're still hanging on to incandescent lights, power strip for your computer and TV, and you'll get a free assessment of things that you can do to make your home more energy efficient. And then if you choose to do any of those, for the most part, National Grid pays about 50 to 75% of the cost of those items, and the customer pays 25%. So it's a really great deal, especially if you have an older home that needs insulation. You're looking at things like a new heating system. It's really worthwhile. On the commercial side, we think it's about a 3% increase to 9%, depending on your rate and usage, and whether you're a small commercial customer or industrial naturally. And on the gas side, that's between 1% and 6%. And on the income eligible side, the decrease will be, so income eligible customers will see a decrease of about 3% on electric and about 6% on gas. As far as a timeline, we just filed the rate filing in November. There's plenty of time for public input, and we encourage you to do that either through written comment or by going to the division if you'd like. It'll take about 9 months, and the full timeline is also available on the PUC's website. There'll be public notices about when the meetings will be held. Usually, on a rate case of this size, the commission goes across the state and holds some smaller meetings in different cities and towns so that everybody has an opportunity to attend. And that's all I have.
Mr. President, I'll turn the questions over to you if you'd like to, if there's members of the council who'd like to ask questions.
Okay, well, first of all, Ms. Albanese, thank you for the presentation
You're welcome.
and coming out tonight. I think it was pretty self-explanatory. It still has to go through approval at the, what is it, at the PUC at the state level. And if it did get approved, that's going to take effect in September, you said, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'll open it up to any questions from the council members, because I'm pretty well satisfied with your report. Not that anyone likes rates going up, but you said the last rate was 5 years ago?
Yes, on the distribution rates.
Yeah, and if it's 5% up, as an average, it'd be 1% each year for the 5 years. But it doesn't happen every year. When's the last one? You said it was 2012.
2012.
And then the one before that, you know? I'm just kind of curious. Is it every 5 years? Is it?
No, I think the one before that was probably, forgive me because I grew up on the gas side of the business, so I'm trying to remember. I think it was probably when right after the merger occurred on the gas side, which was
All right.
2006.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's about 6 years.
Yeah.
All right, very good. From the council, any questions? Feel free.
Hi, thank
Hi.
you so much. That was very informative. I do have a couple questions about the storm situation.
Yes.
Okay, so my district is Western Coventry Green, and we had people, I luckily got my power back on Tuesday. Other people did not. Now, my question is, for Western Coventry, because I've heard a couple of different things.
Yep.
Do we get our power, so that would be going up 117, that whole area after the Johnson's Pond, from Indian Trail
Yep.
west. Is that our primary source for our line to get power?
You know, I don't know that off the top of my head. What happens during a storm is, to the extent that we can, if we lose a feeder in a particular area, we switch over to another line to pull up that neighborhood. So I'm not sure exactly what happened in that section, but I can look at that for you.
Well, the reason I'm asking that is because you brought up one of my all-time favorite things, wind turbines.
Yes.
And so the wind turbine developer put in his own interconnection
Yes.
to Indian Trail.
Yep.
He had made the statement at one point that if there was ever another storm and everybody lost power, we would never lose power in Western because he had the interconnection to Indian Trail. So my question is twofold. Do we only get power from Indian Trail going west? Because it seems like that's a lot of homes for one substation. And I know there was an upgrade to that substation
Yep.
for the turbine issue. And number two, if if that's true, then we still lost power, and now there is a potential for a couple, and I'm not calling them farms, because these have nothing to do with farms.
Yeah.
These are commercial solar power installations to suck up more of that connection into Indian Trail substation. Is that going to be even more trouble, whether it's brownouts or, I mean, I'm just
Well-
curious.
Not really. So I know you have two questions. One is, do you get all that, your power from that single substation? And I don't know the answer to that off the top of my
I
head.
can't think of another substation that's out there.
Well, but we switch further back than
Okay.
town, right? So you might be supplied from a substation that's out of town in the
Oh,
event of
so
an
we
emergency.
might get it from West Greenwich or
Yes.
someplace like that?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
And during a storm, and we have redundant capability, so during a storm, if one area is damaged and we can pick up a neighborhood from another area, that's what we do. And that's why it takes so long when we do those feeder patrols, because we have to make sure that everything can be activated before we put the power back on. And the second question you asked was about the solar
The
farm.
capacity.
The capacity. That's why we did so many upgrades to the substation, is to make sure that it doesn't draw down on it. So while you may hear from developers that we're requesting a lot of upgrades on their part, it's because we want to protect all of the customers that we have online, and so that whatever is being what we call an interconnection agreement, whatever is being
Right.
connected to our infrastructure doesn't backfeed onto the system or draw from the system when it shouldn't.
Because the other issue is if the power plants, those solar power plants, were permitted, which at this point, we're hoping they're not because it got turned down by Planning
Yep.
Commission, the statement was made that they would max out the Indian Trail substation.
I don't know that off the top of my head
Okay.
either.
I mean, there's a few issues to worry about with that. No more housing growth.
Right.
Then you have storm issues, and, so I've been wanting to get a National Grid representative that wasn't connected to anything else,
Yeah.
that maybe
I
could-
don't know the answer to that off the top of my head, but we do have a dedicated team that looks at all of those scenarios, and that's why it takes so long to have an application approved, because we have to do a lot of modeling before we can attach anything.
Yeah, well, with the recent storm, that certainly brought up the point, is that going to be an issue going forward? And did that affect,
Yeah, I don't really think the two are
Indian Trail.
connected, but, and I'll look into the neighborhood and let you know
okay, that'd be
which
great.
substations feed it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, and by the way, I have used the RISE program, 70 light bulbs at my house. I've
See?
said that before to people, but I'm telling you, it's well worth having them
That's
come
great.
out, look at your insulation, look at your light bulbs. I mean, they whiz through there, and it's great information, so I highly recommend that program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I also have used the RISE program, and it's a great program. They pay for it. They give you a lot of money and assistance and light bulbs and so on. So it's a good program. Anybody who has not used it, I strongly encourage you to. I think a lot of reasons why our taxpayers don't go to the PUC meetings is because they all figure, including myself, that it's a done deal already.
Yeah.
We can go and complain as much as we want to the PUC, but it just doesn't seem like our voice is being heard. So, I mean, am I correct? Or do you encourage people to go to the meetings, but nothing seems to get accomplished? Very, very rarely does the PUC refuse a rate hike from any public utility.
Well, I have to, so in our case, I think, yes, your voices will be heard. Don't forget, there are two different types of rate hikes. On the supply side, we work with the commission and the division on a supply plan, that we call it, so it's a procurement plan. And if we follow all the rules to that plan, then they do approve the rate increase or decrease, because they know that we're buying on an open market and that we're following that plan. On the distribution side, you absolutely have influence over that. And I would say you do on the supply side as well, but on the supply side, you probably have more influence on when people are looking at the procurement plan. And the other thing too is we have been meeting with small groups across the state on this whole low-income issue. That's why it's such a big piece of this filing. We talked to a lot of the CAP agencies and local authorities about what the needs of our income-eligible customers are and how we could best address those. So you do have input. I know it might not seem that way sometimes.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? No? Okay, Mr. Waters, I guess council's set, and we appreciate the time and the information. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, is she accepting any questions?
We weren't anticipating that. This is more of a presentation. I guess it was limited.
I would suggest that if she wants to answer questions out in the hallway,
Yeah,
if
maybe
Marisa,
that's
if you don't mind
so we can-
sticking around.
That's fine.
You'll be out there for a few minutes.
Yeah,
right,
that's
on the
fine.
way out?
Yep.
Okay, very good. I think that'll help us move along in our meeting tonight, so, yes, but outside. Okay, next we have B5, the approval for the town council minutes as of October 16th meeting. Do I have a motion to approve? Do I have a second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. And also, next is approve the minutes of November 27th, as we have before us. Do I have a motion to approve that set of minutes? November 27th.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Oh, questions, comments on the
comment.
27th?
Page 4.
Okay?
Page 4, second paragraph, where it starts, Carlson asks Manager Waters about the contract. I did ask the question if there had been a sand contract this year, because I didn't remember seeing it or voting on it. There was a sand contract, but it was actually last year, and it was for 2 years. So that answered my question. I thought maybe we could put that in the minutes so that we know that there is a contract with Casellas, but it was a 2-year contract, so instead of voting in 17, we voted in 16. That's it.
Okay, any other changes or amendments? If not, with that change noted, all in favor of the minutes?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, very good. So, that brings us down to B number 7. And that is legislative topics discussion we have regarding our meeting next week. And some proposed topics. I know that before our meeting, we were handed copies from interested topics, the Rhode Island League of Cities and Towns. Mr. Waters, you want to go into that briefly? Or
Sure, this was given to the council just to use as a reference and to spur conversation about our legislative meeting. This memo that you have in front of you is what the Rhode Island League of Cities and Towns put out for their legislative priorities for 2018. It discusses topics of school aid funding, collective bargaining, state aid to municipalities, healthcare benefits, tipping fees, as well as other minor issues such as tax assessments and appeals, building fees, land use and renewable energy, and any individual requests by member municipalities that need to be brought to the League's attention that might be of interest to other municipalities as well. I know in the past, some items have been brought forward by the town council for discussion about state legislation that needs to be put forward, so I thought this might help the council with some guidance.
okay, I surveyed it as it was coming into the meeting, and personally, I think each of the topic headings would be worth at least discussing with our representatives, the General Assembly. I can't think of one that wouldn't be useful to at least bring up the topic. I think this is, again, obviously well put together by Mr. Daniels and Mr. Schaefer, and I would recommend each of those line items, however long we discuss them, but at least the general topics, I think would be a good start. I also personally, and I know each council person can state some additional information they might want to add to the meeting, but in the Times this morning, the whole topic of legalization of marijuana for adults, it poses problems for people dealing with teens. And it was a big article out of California. I think as our General Assembly continues to debate the issue, I think that's another topic where we should at least put in our 2 cents worth, because really, I don't think they have any idea of what legalizing it might be. I know marijuana, medical marijuana has been legalized in Rhode Island, but the dealing with recreational and then the selling it, whether it starts in Massachusetts or begins in Massachusetts, there's a lot of issues. So I personally would like to also add that to a list of possible topics that our senators and our representatives will be facing this coming General Assembly session, first week of January, I think they begin. So, other suggestions, other comments? Mr. McGee, do you have one?
Yeah, I'd like to talk.
couple?
I'd like to talk to the General Assembly about trying to get our mobile home parks again put into affordable housing, and we try it every year. And I mean, that would be great for the town if we could be considered for affordable housing, and we would meet our cap. So that'd be a good.
Absolutely, that's a good one, and I know we have tried every year, and you know, sooner or later, I think, and it's not just Coventry. It would help a lot of cities and towns, but certainly Coventry with the number we have. That's an excellent point, and maybe we could add that to the list. Other comments? Mrs. Carlson?
Yeah, I have 2 things. Last January 9th, and I know it was on our agenda twice, we discussed requesting the General Assembly change Title 44, Chapter 7, to add a section for Coventry to deny licenses or permits when the applicant is in arrears on property taxes. Do you remember that? And then we had the discussion, Monique came, and Greg was worried that if it was a business who's actually renting the property, that it would prevent them from running their business because the property owner didn't pay their taxes. I don't think from what I found in my agendas, we tabled that twice, and I don't think it ever came back. And I don't know why we didn't discuss it with the legislators. We kind of it dropped. It fell away.
Wasn't
Right?
that to match what Exeter had or something?
Yeah,
I
something
believe
like
it was
that.
it was either Exeter or Foster.
East Greenwich, someplace like- no,
yeah,
Exeter?
It was Exeter, I
Richmond?
believe.
I don't know.
I believe
Okay.
it was Exeter. In other words, the argument was to give the tax collector, just I don't want to say better opportunity, but just a little more clout to collect the particular taxes. And again, my concern was that for not necessarily for the property owner, but
Right.
for someone who might be leasing. There's a lot of triple net lease type things that happen where they may have paid the landlord, depending whatever their agreements are.
Well,
That was my concern with that.
What triggered it was the discussion last week about the licenses for the liquor licenses and the fire marshal issue and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And one of our businesses who has a history of not paying
Yep.
their taxes and then permitting them to have another license, I don't think we need to do something where we can deny that license.
Well, they need to be, in other words.
Again, for the tax-
Well, at this point, not to be, in other words, the license would not be issued if they were in arrears of that.
But I think it was voted on. I think they were
Well,
one of the ones that were voted on.
Well, again, they're approved with the stipulations of
stipulation.
that, but it's not necessarily issued unless
Right.
they're.
But I'm wondering if
And
this.
that's
if
commonplace.
The
That's-
Title
correct?
44, Chapter 7
Yeah.
issue would make that cleaner, would help us. I don't remember why, well, it just sort of fell off. So if maybe Mr. Waters wants to look into it, maybe,
Sure.
for an
Bring it back.
item,
As a
agenda item.
You're right.
And the other thing was that I had sent an email to Mr. Waters asking that we have a Q&A session at the end with the public, because it's the one time we have school committee, council, and legislators all in one room. And I'd like to have that on the agenda, that it's not just public comment, but if they have a question, they might be able to get an answer. If not, that answer will be forthcoming. But I think we need to have that input from the public at this meeting. And that's my 2 cents.
Okay, anyone else? Anyone else?
I just also.
okay.
No, just,
No, no, I'm good.
okay. I agree also with the question and answer at the end, if that could be possible.
Okay, I so noted on the request. My point is, again, our legislators and our senators can be reached after we get done discussing our school committee, our town council, and our state reps and state senators. That alone will be a good evening, and obviously, they're one phone call away. So I'm not promising anything, but that's my comment on that.
I've got one more.
All right, go ahead.
As well,
Well, but, on the other hand,
I think-
you don't get all of these
Right.
these three groups together, these legislative
Right.
bodies together in one room, except maybe once a year if we don't have a snowstorm. So I think we need it on this agenda for transparency and open government. I mean, isn't that what we talk about all the time? So and maybe one person has a question that another person didn't
Right.
think of, and they get an answer. So I don't know why we can't. I think we need to have it.
Okay,
Just
thank you.
need to have it.
Thank you for your comments. Mr. Lebassegne?
I have mentioned it at the past couple of meetings. One was a sewer subcommittee meeting as well, that in a conversation that I had with Janine Burke-Wells who is the director of the Warwick Sewer Authority, that she had conversations with legislators from Warwick, from Tiverton, and from North Kingstown, who are facing some of the same sewer issues that we are, about exploring a law that is in Massachusetts, which I believe is Title V, is what it's known as, which gives taxpayers a tax credit for a certain dollar amount up to a certain percentage of the of what they have paid, for instance, either to connect to a sewer or to replace a septic system, et cetera. And we don't have that on the state level in Rhode Island, and I've asked to, and I'd like to speak with our legislative team about joining with those other legislators to bring it forward to the state level again to get the same type of law on the books in Rhode Island as they have in Massachusetts.
Again, I think that's an excellent idea. We could add that to the list as well.
Okay.
All right. Next, we have number B8. Mr. Waters, I'll turn that over to you.
All right, if you give me 1 minute, I'm just
sorry. Yeah.
finishing my notes here. All right, the council has in front of them a memorandum that I drafted this past week, giving an update on the sewer moratorium. It was requested by a number of council members for an update. Currently, I'll just go through it with you. Currently, the 120-day moratorium that was enacted by the resolution is still in place. It's set to expire on February 5th. Which is 120 days from when it was enacted, but no projects are in the queue to move forward upon the expiration of the moratorium. The contractor from Hazard Street has not submitted final numbers to Weston and Sampson yet, so the town has no idea on the final cost of the Hazard Street project. The town will be reserving the entire cost of the project, but we do not expect the final amount to be close to what was estimated for the project itself, even if penalties are assessed. The sewer subcommittee met on November 28th, where it reviewed and revised a draft survey, which will be sent out to town residents. The survey focuses on soliciting feedback from residents about their current property, their current sewer and septic situation, and expectations for pricing of sewers in town. In conjunction with our sewer engineers, I'm sourcing professional survey companies to revise, distribute, and collect the survey for the town. This cost is to be an expected unbudgeted amount of $20,000 to $35,000, and that depends if we do a town-wide survey or if we survey just the residents within the facilities plan. The finance director and I are currently working with the town's financial advisor and our bond attorney on returning all unused borrow funds to the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank and to discuss the possibility of refinancing our existing debt with the Infrastructure Bank. The returning of funds is projected to provide an immediate relief to the sewer fund of at least $80,000 a year in debt service. As I relayed to the town council in an earlier email, the sewer fund is in an estimated $2 to $2.5 million deficit to the general fund. The sewer fund is also operating at a loss of approximately $800,000 for the current fiscal year. This number is included in the aforementioned estimated deficit. It was anticipated that the continuation of the sewer program would solve the fiscal crisis, but with its cessation, it has only made the fiscal situation worse. Ultimately, without the continuation of the sewer program, the deficit of the system will have to be borne by the residents of the town. How that will bear out is still yet to be determined. As far as future plans for the installation of sewers, there are no future plans for sewer installations other than what was previously adopted in 2016 with the sewer facilities plan. I have instructed the sewer engineer consultants and town staff to cease any further projects until the town council gives the green light to proceed again. There's questions about the extension of the moratorium. At the sewer public hearing, it was made clear that the moratorium is to last 120 days. So there's no planned extension of the moratorium. That would have to be, again, an act of the town council. If the council wishes to extend it, we can revise the resolution and come up with a new extension for the moratorium. Other things to note, the town is working on hiring a consultant to do a fiscal review of the sewer fund, the sewer program, and make recommendations on solutions. Councilmember McGee has proposed a joint town council sewer subcommittee meeting to work out some solutions to the existing problems, to review the current sewer ordinance, and to brainstorm other ideas to assist in the improvement of the town sewer program. And that's currently where the moratorium stands and where the sewer program stands as well. I'm happy to entertain any questions by the council or any comments, Mr. President.
Well, okay, I read your report as you dictated it just now, and I understand it. I'll open it up to any other council people with individual questions at this time, if anyone care to?
I would.
Mr. Bacon, okay.
I did put in an agenda item request, and obviously it's not on this agenda, but I still would like to try and get this on, possibly amend this resolution tonight. I have requested that we suspend the entire sewer program altogether, including the current sewer survey, sewer subcommittee, and sewer subboard of review appointments, any revisions to the sewer subcommittee resolution and sewer authority ordinance. There needs to be an independent forensic audit into the entire sewer program, including but not limited to the intermunicipal agreement the town has with the West Warwick Sewer Authority and the town's bond obligations to West Warwick for the sewer treatment plant. I also, with the independent forensic audit, I have also requested that we have an independent performance audit into the entire DPW department, which would include all of its departments under its purview, which includes engineering, the sewer, inspections and permits, roads and bridges, snow removal, building maintenance, refuse collection, refuse disposal, vehicle maintenance. I hope we could consider that tonight and amend this resolution to include that.
We did get your email. I did get your email, and as I think was conveyed back to you by the town manager, is that at the agenda meeting, both myself and the vice president, as well as the town manager, decided that it would not be a topic for tonight. They're still looking into the sewer situation. There's still going to be meetings on Friday. Is that right, Mr. Waters, or at least conversation between you and Mr. Tebow with the infrastructure bank.
Yeah, we have a
it's a-
conference call scheduled about the
Right. So
refinancing
this
of
is a-
existing debt.
This is a work in motion, and to go past the 120 days, we may have to extend it. But to say, no, it's ended, I'm not in favor of that at all
I
right now.
didn't ask to end it. I
Well,
asked to suspend it.
Excuse me. What I'm saying is that I'm not in favor of your idea, okay?
Okay.
I don't know if
I-
others are.
Well, I would like,
Right.
I would just like to say, I mean, we
Right.
have approximately 620 active sewer users. This took over 20 years to get 620 on there. We're 29 million in debt. We
Right.
can't move forward like we're going. We need a forensic audit. We need a performance audit if we're going to move forward and get this right. I think if we're
And-
going to spend this kind of money on this survey,
And
I'd
we
rather
may,
see
it may
it-
come to that, but manager and the town finance director make that decision. They bring it to the council, not one individual or two individual council people, all right? That's basically it, all right? Excuse me, it's a council meeting, all right? Later on, public comment. Right, we all do. And we have public comment at the end. All right, we're basically discussing the issue. A motion was made, and that was my response. Any other comments or at this time? If not, we're going to move right along. What I said, when the town manager tells us and the town financial director suggests it's time, then we can do that. That's how we're going to do. The town manager is professionally hired, as well as our finance director, as well as our town engineer. All right, it's not a popular decision. It's not an individual council and we'll decide it when the time is right with professionals telling us that. All right, not individual recommendations. All right.
Mr.
Thank you.
President?
Yes.
We are looking into doing an independent audit of the
Right.
program.
Well, yeah, I thought you mentioned that. We are looking into doing that. All right? We're not afraid of anything, and I'm not going to answer to the public like this. All right? When the time is right, it'll be brought to our attention. Thank you. Okay, next. Next on the agenda, we have...
Comment.
I thought you did. All right, you have another comment? Go ahead.
Yes, I always have a comment. Okay, so if we're going to look at hiring a consultant to do a fiscal review of the sewer fund, the sewer program, and make recommendations on solutions, the point being, yes, we look to the town manager to get us this information. That's his job. But ultimately, we're the ones that are responsible because we're up there, town manager, departments, department heads, and all the other people. We have to answer to them. And I think Deb's got a good idea, and we need to,
Right.
rather than just waste time now, I mean, another thing, the survey. Apparently, the sewer subcommittee wrote this new survey. We have two members here of the sewer subcommittee. The cost of $20,000 to $35,000. What are we getting for that? I know it's not coming to the council to look at the survey,
All right.
but I'd really like more information than just these two sentences because not budgeted, and there are things in this agenda tonight that are very expensive. So can we get some more information on what this really means?
Yes, I have a quote that our engineering firm has sourced from a mail house. It's a firm that will be going out. They'll be doing they'll review the survey to see if any of the questions need to be reworded to be more worded in an unbiased manner. They will be distributing the survey to the households. The last time the town did a survey, I believe it was in 1997 or thereabouts, the sewer engineers actually went to the post office themselves and did the mailing. This will have it done all in one shop, so they will distribute the mailing. They will collect the mailings. They will do data analysis for the town. So they'll all the responses they'll send back and tabulate the responses for us.
So if we're hiring somebody to do this, and the cost is 20 to 35,000, are we going to, is this for the, who's making the decision as to where the mailing goes? Is it who's making the decision to decide whether it's just,
Ultimately, it will be my decision because the sewer questionnaire has a couple questions in it that pertain to town-wide. If there's a situation where the town has to be taxed to make up for the deficit of the sewer program, or if a town-wide tax has to be implemented, there's a question of that nature on the survey. So it would be distributed town-wide. It wouldn't be fair to, it would skew the results of the survey if we were just to survey the facilities
Right.
program and there's a question that pertained to the entire town population. So most likely it'll be distributed town-wide.
are we looking at, it is on, okay. Are we looking at the viability of using an online survey? Now, I understand not everybody has computers, but almost everybody has phones.
Yeah, so this will be a blended, it'll go out in the mail with instructions on how to respond to the survey online. But it'll also have the option for residents to mail back the survey.
Okay, I hate to sound cheap, but this seems like a lot of money. And I was a direct mail manager for a large publishing company, so I think this sounds like a lot of money. I think obviously it can't be handled in-house because we want to keep it clean and make sure it's unbiased.
Mm-hmm.
But,
I'm welcome to input from anybody.
well, if we're going to pay a company to do this, they need to come up with the ways to do it. We shouldn't have to do their job. They need to tell us what's the most cost-effective way to do it. I know you and I have had this discussion, so it's not something new, but I think we have to have the professionals, like Glenn likes to say.
Well, we're trying to do it in a timely fashion
We're
since
trying
we
to-
have
yeah.
the
I
120
mean,
days.
we are up against a time crunch. I'd
Yep.
like to see the moratorium extended, but I want to see the sewer project stopped at this point because I don't think adding anything on is going to be helpful. But the worst thing is we're coming up with some big issues on the next budget, and I hope
We are.
everybody's going to be here for those meetings because believe me, it comes out of your pocket. So you need to
Okay.
help us make those decisions, but we need to keep an eye on what we're spending,
Absolutely.
okay?
Absolutely.
I got a couple comments, if I may.
Mr. McGee?
Yeah, I think we're heading in the right direction. I think we need to possibly do an audit. I don't want to call it a forensic audit, but I definitely, after, with everything that's been going on, I think an audit would be a good idea, and there has been some
Yeah.
discussion about that, so that's definitely good. As far as a performance audit, I think that our town manager does a performance audit to all departments on a daily basis. That's what he's hired for, he's to look for. Now, granted, the sewer department is different, but I think that that's jumping the gun. We want to just spend the money on a performance audit. The only department that's involved in the DPW that would have an effect is a part of the sewers. But I think our town manager does a performance audit on a daily basis, and I don't think that would be necessary. Thank you.
Oh, one more question. The contract with West Warwick,
West Warwick. The intermunicipal contract.
yes.
I spoke to the town attorney about that. They're going to start looking into reviewing it and see how the best way to initiate negotiations for that.
Thank you, Mr. Waters. As requested, give an update with the 60 days in, approximately from October 16th, November 16th, and not even December 16th, but that has been the update, and we all want to be kept updated more as the time goes on. And after 120 days, the 16th of February, we'll address it again. So thank you very much. The next issue on the agenda is B9. If I could bring that one up. And Mrs. Lavoy, that is what? The town council meeting schedule. Is that, I guess, Mrs. George, who's not here tonight, she came up with the respective dates. Were you part of picking these dates as far as the upcoming year? Okay. I see where we all have it in front of us, and it says dates subject to change due to holidays and summer scheduling. As we could see in red, And I went down my 2018 calendar myself, and every one of the red dates is a holiday. So would that be something we'd want to address tonight, or is it something we want to?
Yes, this wasn't addressed, I don't think it was addressed last
Okay.
year, so.
All right.
If we could go meeting by meeting and make a decision, that would be very helpful.
All right. Very good. I don't have a
Cody, can you pull that up on the,
2018 calendar.
no, can you pull it up on the monitor, on the portal? Yeah, if you click on the link, it'll come up.
It's the 12 months with the 2 meetings each month. Obviously, summer holiday dates, which is basically the same every year.
If you click on the B9 link, no? All right, well, while he's doing that, to pull that up for the public, if the council wants to discuss the meeting dates.
Oh, okay. As far as I found is that the 2 dates in January were fine. 2 dates in February, the 12th and the 26th, fine. March 12th and the 26th, no conflict there. April 9th and the 23rd, no conflict. The month of May, we have May 14th, and then listed was May 28th, and of course, that's a Memorial Day holiday. So the choice would be, if we wanted to go on a Tuesday, are we available in the council chambers on a Tuesday, or has that always been a concern, or do we have to move it to another week? 'Cause,
It's your chamber, so if you want to make
Right.
it available.
Again, I could see going to a Tuesday if that's agreeable with everyone. That would be May 29th, which would be a Tuesday after Memorial Day. All right? That would be one change. In June, we have the, June 12th is the financial town meeting, which is a Tuesday, and June 25th, the end of that month. Next, we have 2 listed right now in July, July 9th and the 23rd. As far as dates, I didn't see any conflict at all on that. The question always is whether it being in the summertime in July, I guess we could decide later if we want 2 meetings in that month. I know generally the months of July and August, we cut it down to 1 meeting a month, or with special meetings if needed. That's always an option as well. So maybe, unless there's any suggestion, you want to just leave it that way right now?
In the past, it's been, 4th of July week is generally difficult.
Well, yeah.
I suggest just eliminate the July 9th meeting.
All right.
Go into one, because in the past 7 years that I've been here, we usually
All right.
go to one meeting unless there's some.
July 9th and August 13th, leave the 2, and then if there was something else needed.
All right, all right, so July 9th, and again, we could always schedule another meeting if needed, but July 9th would be the one we'd remove, getting close to the July 4th week. Again, dealing with vacations and other
It
conflicts.
is the Monday after July 4th week, though.
Right.
A
It,
lot of people take 2 rest 2 weeks in July off.
generally, a lot of them do. Well, again, right now, we can just scratch it, 1 for July and one in August, and if we need to add them back, we could. August 13th and August 27th. Now, August 13th is a holiday being VJ Day, which is only celebrated in Rhode Island, but it is a holiday. So I think we could leave it as August 27th, and any other meetings that we need to schedule, we'll have to work around a date. So basically, the July 9th and August 13th, we just remove at this time. September 10th and the 24th, no conflict. October 8th, we have Columbus Day, holiday. So would that be agreeable to go to a Tuesday, the 9th?
Yes.
9th, Tuesday, okay. That would be October 9th. And then the 22nd, October is conflict-free. In November, we have November 12th as a holiday. That would be a Monday following Veterans Day, which is on the 11th as always. So would Tuesday be okay on that date for everyone, the 13th? Okay. We'll schedule it for the November 13th, a Tuesday. The 26th comes after Thanksgiving. And then December 10th and December 24th. And of course, we know December 24th.
Eliminate that one.
Yeah, that wouldn't happen. What would be the week before then or the week after? We have 31 days. Oh, that's New Year's Eve. No.
Easy. Just we've eliminated that. We only
Well-
have one this month, other than the legislators meeting, likewise.
Legislative meeting. Okay, so it'd be December 10th. We'll scratch the 24th, and we'll pencil in, one date will be a legislative meeting. Possibly the 17th, maybe. As, just looking at it fast, if the 10th is a Monday, the 17th might also be a Monday.
Mr. President, I
Yeah.
know Councilman Carlson has expressed in the past that having the legislative meeting so close to the beginning of the new year and the holidays discourages people from attending. I don't know if there's a different date that might want to be considered.
Well, next year is election year, so we're going to have a lame duck legislators. So what if we did the legislators meeting after January 1st, so they're all sworn in
Okay.
case there's a change? I mean,
Yep.
that wouldn't.
Yep.
That
Right.
You're right.
that makes sense.
Yep.
All right, so that would be maybe the first week in January?
Maybe the
Well,
7th of
questionable-
January?
Questionable anyway. as
Yeah.
to what date.
Yeah, they're not in session on Monday nights, so.
Yeah, they
7th
usually
would
go
be
in on a
right.
Tuesday, yeah.
Yeah. They'll be sworn in on the 1st, right? They get sworn in
No,
on the
that's New Year's
1st?
Day, though.
Yeah, but don't they get sworn in on that?
Maybe, I forget.
I don't
They
remember.
might. All right, well,
Anyways,
we'll
we
come
can
up with a
work around
date.
that one.
Yeah.
All right,
in-
so we'll do tentatively
in
January
January.
7th, 2019.
So the new people, if there are any,
It'll be 2019.
okay.
All right. We don't need a vote on that, that was discussion, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we're on the agenda C, licenses for discussion and/or action. So that would be C1 on our packet. Mr. Waters, you want to lead us in on this one?
Sure. So for applications for renewal for campground licenses, the council is considering Water's Edge at 119 Peckham Lane, the Yoho Campground at 249 McManus Road, Hickory Ridge Campground at 584 Victory Highway.
Okay, we have
Nice. Motion to approve the licenses.
motion to approve. Do I have a second on that? Okay, motion to approve and second it. Any discussion?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Okay, I'd like to take, as we did last year, I'd like to take each of these separately and not as a group.
Okay.
I did have some questions, and I know normally in the past, we've gotten information as a standard operating procedure. I don't see any police reports for any of the three campgrounds. I have an email response. I asked for when the inspections were done for the campgrounds, and it looks like November, which is, they officially close November 1st. End of September. Okay, so my point being that they weren't inspected during their high season, which means that they can't count campsites. We don't know how many people, was it overflow, that kind of issue, because that's been problems before. And although I have a list here of each campground and how many campsites, cabins, and et cetera, that doesn't mean that, that was adhered to during the summer. Yes, the campground was not counted at the high season. I think we're okay. It looks like,
We have the chief
The-
here if there's any questions
Yeah.
regarding
The chief is here. Any questions?
police.
oh, hello, chief. Did not see you back there. Thank you. Well, my other questions, I see that we are fine with the Department of Health and the drinking water, which is good. And I know Hickory Ridge is the only one with a pool. Yes?
Right.
No, I know. Wait, I'm just verifying. Okay. Let's see. Okay, Chief, sorry. Could I ask you some questions?
Good evening, Colonel.
Good evening, thank you. How did we do this year? I don't see any, are there any reports to think?
Today at 3 o'clock about the police reports. I took a look.
Yeah, I apologize, I thought we'd have it in the packet and I realized they weren't in there.
Yeah.
If there were any.
No, it's very minor. A few ACO calls. All the campgrounds were quiet this year as far as that goes. Really no issues to speak of out of the norm.
How about that issue over the summer with the boating accident?
Yeah, that had nothing to do with any of the campgrounds.
Okay, they weren't staying at a campground?
They were not.
Oh, that's good. That's good news. Okay, my other questions were, oh, I'm sorry, that's all for the, do you have anything for the chief? No, thank you, thank you. I know we've discussed this the last few years. Now that we seem to have year-round camping, or year-round occupancy at the campgrounds, there's no indication that I could find of any information on how many sites are used year-round. And I know that in the past, I guess you call campers, the structures were inspected for registrations to make sure they were registered. And I would like to say that if you get mail, then you're a resident. So shouldn't they be paying some sort of a tax as a resident? I know the campgrounds themselves pay a tax on their property, but I think we need to, ask that question, how many year-round residents do they have? And I don't think Ioho has any, because I don't think they have the facilities. And I know from being near Hickory Ridge, they don't have a problem. That's run really well. I don't know about Water's Edge. I don't go over there.
I spoke to the tax assessor this afternoon. The tax collector's office does not do any sort of registration for the campground sites, but the tax assessor's office did send out requests for names and mailing addresses of owners of any unregistered campers that might remain in the campground from last year. We have two of the campgrounds reporting Westwood and Hickory Ridge. They have reported
Water's
back.
Edge?
They have not reported back yet, no. This was, not sure when this email or letter was sent out to the campgrounds, but
So they were asked questions, but they haven't responded yet.
two of them have not.
Okay. Two of them have, we only have three.
Oh, excuse me, one has not.
Okay. The other issue is, again, I've had calls about children from the campgrounds going to school. Do we know if we have, and I'm not sure I asked you on here. I think I forgot that question. Do we have kids enrolled in school?
I would defer to the school superintendent and the school committee, but I can relay that question to them for an answer.
So if we don't, well, wait a minute. I know Monique has said in the past she does go out to the campgrounds to check the license registrations and see that they're registered in Rhode Island, and if they are, if they're paying their taxes on it. We haven't done that this year?
When I discussed it with her, she said no. I can ask her again and
Do you remember that?
and
Okay.
see.
Every year it's.
But
kinda-
if we're
kinda the
waiting
same.
for letters to come back and responses, how can we vote on the licenses tonight? I suggest we table this until we have all the information.
Is this,
That's fine.
like, the time constraints, is that a problem, Mr. Solicitor?
Well, you're the enforcement body.
Yeah.
And certainly, I think probably you'd want to acknowledge that existing licenses would extend until these questions can be
Okay.
resolved.
All right.
Which
All
we've
right,
done
so-
before.
All right, yeah, I know on one, I didn't know if on all three. Is there, I know we had talked about addressing one at a time, or are there, outside of postponing all three, is there any one that might want to approve tonight? Or shall we just postpone all
I
three?
think we should table all of them until we have all our answers.
Okay,
Maybe ask for a revised motion to table and
Yeah.
extend the existing licenses
okay.
until the issues can be addressed.
Thank you.
That's good. I'll entertain a motion then to extend.
Should we need to remove, I move for approval. And we were in discussion, so.
That's true. We,
I'll remove my, what's the protocol? The second, and then I'll
Right, and-
remove my motion.
and Mr. McGee, will you be so kind to remove your second?
Thank you.
Okay, so the motion and the second been removed. Then I'll entertain a motion to continue their licenses, the three campgrounds, until we get the additional information that has been requested and we have not got yet, probably tabling this to our January, first January meeting, hopefully.
So moved.
Okay, and do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. So that's tabled. All right. Next on the agenda, we have D. D1, I guess we'll take first. Mr. Waters and Mr.
Sure, this time I'll call up our Public Works Director,
I was
Mr.
going to say
McGee.
Mr. McGee, yep. Good evening, Mr. McGee.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
What the town council has before them is a resolution of the town council accepting a grant award made and entered into by and between the state of Rhode Island, Department of Environmental Management, and the town of Coventry, authorizing the town manager to sign a lease purchase agreement between All American Investment Group LLC and the town of Coventry for the total amount of $336,000 for the anticipated purchase of a vacuum jet truck. I will let Mr. McGee discuss a little bit about the background of the DEM grant award, as well as why he applied for this grant, and then turn it over to council for questions.
Thank you, thank you, Mr. Waters. The reason why we're looking at getting the council to authorize enter into an agreement with DEM is that we currently, under our existing budget, have all of the catch basins cleaned in the town annually. That's done with what they call a grapple type of cleaner. We're spending, on the average right now for the last 2 years, we're spending about $31,000 to have that done, and it's in our budget. The next contract year that's coming up through Truax, which I believe you have a copy of, we'll be raising the actual cost an additional $4,800. We will then be paying currently close to $36,000. The lease payment that we would be paying, and we'd be getting 50% of the cost with Rhode Island DEM. The lease payment for 7 years would be $32,453. So the entire cost of this would be paid for out of existing funds that we have on an annual basis in our budget. This will allow us to not only do jet cleaning of storm drainage lines, which we do now on an as-needed basis when we have a blockage, but we would actually be able to develop an annual program where we could do entire neighborhoods and get those jetted on a regular basis. We do not have the opportunity now to clean any sewer catch basins or jet any sewer lines if there is a problem of the existing lines that we have. This will also allow us to do this. By doing this and having cleaner roads with the catch basins, we will be able to meet the federal guidelines, which is MS4, Municipal Stormwater, which EPA is undertaking in the state as it is throughout New England. We will be ahead of the curve on this rather than trying to play catch up. This is only to ask the council to allow the town manager and myself to enter into a grant agreement with DEM. It's not authorizing the purchase. That will come back to you after we go on to bid for the actual vac jetter truck, if the town council so approves.
Okay. Mr. McGee, Councilman McGee?
You'll have the ability to jet through any clogged lines from catch basin to catch basin, which we do not have. Even with our services that were offered to us now, it's just cleaning the catch bases. And if we have an issue with a line, we have to pay additional money to have that jetted. Am I correct?
Correct. When the jetter truck comes out, it's a 4-hour minimum at $300 an hour, so it's a $1,200 charge. Just to, whether he's there for an hour or not, we get charged that $1,200 minimum.
And that's quite a frequent thing when we get the silt and everything running into the lines and clogging our drain lines. I know I receive some calls that when we do on the Hill Street area. We had a couple just recently that were clogged. So it's going to be basically of no cost to us because we budgeted money already for the Truex company. So, and with the increase going up to 40 or 38, whatever it is.
Yeah, it's right now it's $11.90 per basin, and it's going to go up in 2018, 2019 to $13.90 per basin. So we have 2,445 basins times those $2 more that we're paying than we did pay this year. It'll be an additional $4,800, and it'll bring the cost up in current numbers to just under $36,000, $35,978.
So I guess my comment, I mean, I love grant money. I love it when the DEM, pitches in money. Grant money is great for the town, and we don't have to pay that back. I think my other concern, and you have the answer to me before, but I wanted to publicly do it, is training of employees to use a truck will come with, if you ever purchase a truck, they will come with training. So our guys, we won't need to hire any additional employees to run that truck. It'll come from our workforce. Am I correct?
Correct. That all the training would become, when we go out to RFP, the training would be included in the price, and that it would be with existing personnel that we have now.
It sounds like a no-brainer to me. Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, Mr. McGee. I
Good
just
evening.
have a question. I was actually looking for something else today, and I came across our July 11th, 2016, where we had the contract resolution with Truex. So we have a contract with them through 1819.
That is correct.
So the $4,800, that won't affect this pricing, will it?
No, that's what the pricing will be. Which we're going to be adding
'Cause-
$2 more per catch basin in 1819.
Well, looks like $1 more per catch basin and $10 more per hour.
Right. What
Yes.
happened is that we were able to convince Truax, because they were so late this year in getting out there, that they held last year's price for us. But they are going to, he already told me the 1819 price will be the 1390. So from our current expenditure, we're going to be adding $2 more per catch basin.
So I guess I mean, I read it all of this, but I would think that a cost analysis of using, well, even going out for a new RFP and new companies versus $200,000 because we have to match the 50%?
Right. There's two companies that manufacture the vacuum jetter companies. We got preliminary budget numbers from both companies. One was a Vacon truck, which came in at $336,000, and one was the Vactor truck, which came in at $412,000. So we opted to go with obviously the $336,000, which has the same qualities that the other truck had. That company seems to be more interested in selling a truck to us. They're both on Freightliner chassis, identical size tanks. The one that we're looking at, the 336 from Vacon, actually has a secondary engine, so that while they're doing the work, the engine for the fan is not coming off of the engine for the truck. It's actually a separate engine by itself, so more efficient.
So, and the other question I had was personnel-wise, you're pretty tight over there at DPW, correct? As far as number of employees to go out on rubbish runs and the recycling trucks? And is this something that is done every day?
No, this will be happening during the summertime. It'll actually
Well, I mean during the summer.
correct. It'll go on, and it will not be anything to do with our sanitation. It'll come out of the Roads and Bridges division, and we will have one person allocated to this. It's a one-person truck, and they'll do this over a period of time, over 3 to 4 months.
Because when I looked at these trucks, it appeared they needed 2 people on a truck. Is this
No,
the
ma'am.
kind with the big long hose?
It has a hose,
That
but
you
it
can
has
get hit in
it's
the head and die?
no.
Because I saw that too.
It's a remote control from the front. Once they stop at the catch basin, it's all remote control so they actually operate the hose going down into the catch basin. It's a one-person operation.
I have a question, Mr. McGee.
Yes.
Regarding the annual payment of $32,453 for 7 years.
7-year lease.
7 year, that's the town share.
Correct.
Okay, so that's roughly
I'm-
what, 227,000?
I'm sorry, that's the entire cost. That's for the 200,000. Yes, the town share.
Up to 200,000.
Up to 200,000, correct.
Right. So I mean, the truck cost 336,000?
Correct.
Okay, so
The grant is
50-50?
50/50.
50-50,
Correct.
exactly. All right, so
So
that's
if-
up
if-
to, but it might not be that much.
If the
correct.
truck were $400,000,
I got it.
Which
the
is
grant
what the
would
f-
come right in there.
Which is what the first one we went by was the factory
Okay.
truck.
Yeah, because you thought maybe 400,000. I
Right.
got you. All right, so this could be less,
It could be less.
depending on the grant.
Correct.
And we'd have to approve it again later on, is that
We'd have
it?
to,
When you,
after we do an RFP,
Right.
we would come back to the council for any approval for
Okay.
the purchase of the truck.
okay,
So this grant is, this resolution just has the town accepting the grant.
To go ahead.
As well as approving the financing mechanism. It does not pertain to the purchase of the truck. The grant specifically says that we cannot purchase the truck or go out to purchase a truck until after the town council accepts the grant. So there will be another resolution coming, assuming this resolution is passed, there will be another resolution coming before the town council with the truck and approving the purchase of the truck.
and as far as the budget goes, right now, you have, currently, that's been approved, you have $35,000 to rent the services. So, in other words, it'll be a wash.
Yeah, currently
Wash
it's 31,000. However,
Yeah.
the first payment would be in arrears. So
Right.
they wouldn't be due until
Okay,
January of 2019.
all right, got it. Okay.
So we'd be able to budget for it.
I'm sorry, go ahead. This exceeds the amount of money that can be spent per the charter. That if it exceeds that amount, it has to go to referendum. It has to go to a vote by the taxpayers.
I'll defer that to the legal counsel.
You're talking about the capital expenditure.
Right.
I think, I think in the past, the solicitor's office has ruled that because this is a lease purchase, I don't believe that capital expenditure applies to it.
Right, we went through this with the
Sweeper.
sweeper,
Yeah.
and I know two of us did not agree with that. We thought it still needs to go to the voters to be voted on. Because I don't see how, just because we call it a lease to own, we're paying for it, and then at the end, we own it. So it's lease to own, like a TV set.
That's correct. But
Aaron.
we're paying with existing funds. We're not asking for more funds.
I want to be consistent with the prior advice that was given regarding
Right.
issues like the sewer truck.
And I don't think, well, okay.
I'll be happy to answer any of your questions, ma'am.
I have some questions.
Yes.
Last council meeting, and I don't know who to direct it either, probably to Mr. Waters.
I'm sorry?
Last council meeting, Parks and Rec and the Planning Department came before council. They were applying for a DEM grant for less than $100,000. We had to go, before they even applied for the grant, they came before us, we had to give them the blessing. Why did DPW apply for this grant and not come before council? The grant workshop for this grant was held on May 10th and May 11th, and I believe the proposal was due, I just want to make sure, June 30th?
It was July 27th.
July
Yes, it's okay.
27th? Okay, it's inaccurate. So why did DPW not have to come before council for applying for this? I mean, this truck is nowhere in the capital improvement budget, our budget book, at all. I just kind of, I want to understand, this money is not budgeted anywhere. Why didn't DPW have to come before council?
So the terms of the planning department and Parks and Rec department grant required, as a stipulation of applying for the grant, council approval Why this grant does not require that, I don't know. That would be a DEM question.
Well, I mean, spending, you know, in the grant application, total grant amount requested is $400,000 for a truck. I mean, this would have been nice to have come before council. I mean, it states the town has more than 2,000 catch basins. Many were constructed during the Industrial Revolution in the turn of the century along both branches of the Patuxent River. Well, in 1984, we had 950 catch basins. In 2016, we had almost 2,500. I mean, seriously, I don't understand why this didn't come before council. It's a little blindsided here that we have to come up with this kind of money for a truck that also does sewer lines, because this also, in the application, the town is also in the process of installing sanitary sewers. The system is being installed in the most environmentally sensitive areas of town first. The vacuum truck will also be fitted with a pipe jetter to remove debris from sewer and storm water pipes. I mean, this seems like this is extending the sewer program.
May I answer those questions, Mrs. Bacon?
Please do, Mr. McGee.
Okay. First of all, the round that DEM asked, all of the communities in town, in the state, were asked to apply to see what the interest was. They had a pool of money. Once they found out how many people were interested, that's when they gave us the grant award that, yes, you could be awarded up to $200,000. We are here tonight. We have not done any grant application.
Right.
We have not signed any paperwork with DEM for the grant. That's why we're here this evening with you folks.
Right.
Okay? We haven't committed to the town to anything other than seeing if the funds were available to the town. The money that you're talking about, we didn't have the money. We are already spending the money in our catch basin cleaning line item of our operating budget. This would be the same money. We'd be transferring this from that line over to a lease payment line. There'd be no additional funds coming out of the taxpayers than what we're already doing. I don't know of anything else in this state or in this country that the prices are going down. Our contract right now is through 2018 at $13.90. If we were being conservative, if the prices went up an additional $1 for the next 2 years, we're adding an additional $2,445 per year on the existing catch basin count, not counting the new subdivisions that will be done, so that all of those catch basins are then added after the maintenance period is over with. We didn't do anything here, didn't commit to the town for anything other than seeing if the funds were available. Coventry, as you saw in the letter that was provided, is considered for the award once the grant application is filled out. We have not filled the grant application out until we get a blessing from this council.
Okay, and Janet Coit, we have a copy of the letter that she's acknowledged that, up to $200,000, and you're saying probably we won't need that much. It's a 50-50 match, and we're spending the money annually anyhow.
Correct. No additional funds.
So in other words, we'll probably end up saving money. The town manager must agree that this is a good idea, if I'm not adding words into his mouth. Is that correct, Mr. McGee?
This was presented to the town manager prior
Right.
to it come to the council, and he
Okay.
decided to come to you folks.
All right, so that's why we have it in front of us.
Exactly.
And it's just to pursue it.
That's all.
Okay?
I have another comment too, Mr.
Okay,
President.
Mr. McGee?
Obviously, this is just another ploy to try to insult another department head from a town.
Excuse me.
This is
councilman's
another
talking.
ploy trying to insult another department head. This is a no-brainer. The fact that it's being used for sewer is misleading. It is also used to do drains. We have many drains in this town that need to be cleaned. If it can be used for sewer, great. We do have existing sewer infrastructure that needs to be maintained. So, I mean, it's just a no-brainer that we're getting this truck with a grant from the DEM, and we're spending less money. I don't know what the conflict is. It's just, it's too bad. I mean, it really is. I appreciate the work going into this because, you've explained it. There's been nothing done wrong. We haven't signed anything, and it's just
Right.
a no-brainer.
Mr. President, all I would ask is that in the event that the council decides to vote no, so be it. I mean, the taxpayers will have more of a burden. This is
Right.
trying to save the taxpayers' money. If that's not the case the council wants, I'm okay with that.
I just
I
have
hear
a-
it.
It isn't that I'm trying to impugn your reputation, Kevin. You know that.
I didn't say
I'm
that.
just trying to understand this. Now, so does this mean that when's the deadline for this grant application?
By the end of the year, the end of this calendar year.
Okay, so then if you've got the Truex contract through 1819,
Mhm.
so are you going to cancel the
Oh, we
contract?
would definitely cancel the contract, yes.
Oh, you can?
Oh, yeah.
Can you do that?
Absolutely. We'll give them 30 days written
That's
notice.
what I
that-
mean,
Yes.
Then you would be spending $60,000.
No, we're not going to. And again, it would be in arrears. So if you folks were to approve this when we came back in January for the actual purchase, it wouldn't be due for the first payment until January of 2019. So that money could be transferred into the current budget of 2019.
Okay, and you're thinking that if there's a grant up to 200,000, then the difference is $136,000 out of the town.
No,
Is that what you're doing?
no, it's a 50-50 match, whatever we
And
spend.
it's over 7 years,
Oh,
ma'am.
50/50,
Yep.
that's right.
And it's over 7
I'm
years.
thinking the $400,000 truck.
And again, the way the grant application works is that the state DEM would give us 80% the first year, and the additional 10% the following year, and the third year give us the following 10%. So we'd have the entire 100% of the 50% match after year 3. And Jay Manning from DEM is the person who's the contact person on this project, so. And I think you are all aware of Mr. Manning, so he's willing to work with us. Yep. No? Okay.
Any other questions of
I've
council?
I've got a question.
Comments?
Kevin,
Yes.
what's the useful life of a truck of this nature?
We'll be putting on between 5,000 to 8,000 miles a year. 20 years would be the life of that truck.
20 years of the life of that. And, say the annual maintenance on a truck like that.
Annual maintenance shouldn't be any more than, and again, we've had breakdown from the manufacturer based over the 7-year period, just that's the lease period.
Yep.
Be about between $5,000 and $6,000, including all of the fuels, oil, DEF fluids, brakes, tires, replacement hoses, so.
And it will be available to us all year. I know that I called you a number of times on some of the catch basins in my district where people had problems over the summer, and the service had already been completed by this company, correct?
Correct.
And again, we had to get out there, so we had to get crews out there to do it anyway. And again, how many men did you have on each of those crews that go out and do a catch basin by hand?
Well, we've got about 3 people that do that.
Okay.
But we also spent some time in Wood Estates this past year doing some
Okay.
lines that were down
Great.
over by Plumtree.
Beautiful. Great. Thank you.
I have a quick question also.
Go ahead, Mr. McGee.
When you purchase a truck like that, what kind of a warranty or guarantee comes with it? How many years is it warranty?
It'll come with a 7-year warranty, and it'll come with, on the truck itself, and it'll come with 3 years on the actual mechanism, the Vector unit itself.
All right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
What happens with the debris? Do you have to bring that up to the landfill, and will we have tipping fees for that?
No different than we are now. We have all of our, right now, we're stockpiling it at the landfill. We're at our town stockpile area, and then we bring it up when we have time during rain season, then we'll truck it up to the landfill.
So the company that we hire now, they don't take away the debris, they
Oh, no.
take everything and put
They
it
bring
right at the,
They bring it to our town facility, and that's where it's at. And it's be no more, well, hopefully be more than that, more than what we have now, because we're going to do a better job with the basins with the vacuum unit. But yeah, we would transport it ourselves when the time comes for downtime.
Okay, any other questions of the council? If not, thank you, Mr. McGee. And
Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion to approve this resolution.
So moved.
Second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. Okay, thank you. D2 is the next item on the agenda. Mr. Waters?
Give me 1 second, please.
Sure.
Okay, approving the FY19 budget calendar. In your package, you should have a resolution.
Okay, it's a two-sided, put together by what, Mr. Tebow and yourself?
Correct.
Okay. A motion made to approve and second. Any discussion?
Yes. Okay, I have no problem with the calendar as it stands. I do want to ask that we send out a mailing this year to the residents, to the taxpayers, informing them of the financial town meeting. I know that we advertise it in the Kent County Times and the Reminder, but I hope Kendra's not here. The Times does not have a huge circulation in town, and I think we need to do a better job this time on the mailer to explain the tax increases and everything. So I'd like to be sure that we add that in May, June, advertise in Kent County Times and the Reminder, and also send out a mailer to each taxpayer.
Okay, I got that noted.
All right, with that,
I just
no- yes?
have one comment. When the capital improvement program, this year, could we have a column that'll show the funding source, where they're thinking of funding source, whether or not it would be impact fees, whether or not they're going to be searching out grants? Could we have that in there?
Yep.
Thank you.
And you'll also notice that the sewer budget is coming before the council.
Sorry, can't hear you.
The sewer budget is coming before the town council,
That's on the second page. Thursday,
as
April
well as the
20th.
first, Monday, March
Oh,
19th.
yes, thank you.
Monday night. Okay. Okay, also noted, we had a motion, I think, did we? not?
Yep.
To approve in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. Okay, next is E, public hearing for discussion and/or action. At this time, then, I'd like to ask for a vote to go into a public hearing. Okay, I got a vote and a second. All in favor? Aye. All right, so we're in open public hearing regarding this matter. Mr. Waters, you want to announce this one at least?
I do. We are currently in a public hearing for discussion and/or action for the application by Elia Nasios, excuse me if I mispronounce the name, for a new Class B victuallating, live show, and dance license for the Blue Cafe Bar to be located at 599 Tioga Avenue, formerly known as Indigo Pizza, the formal location of Indigo Pizza. The application was included in the town council's packet. If there's any questions by the public.
Okay, we have the packet in front of us, E1. A few pages for sure. Is Mr. Nasios there? Okay, I didn't look up. Good evening. You want to tell us about this application and request?
Yes, I just wanted to put a new place there, just a different atmosphere, maybe some
Yeah, is your mic on?
Yes, yeah. It looks like a nice place, parking on Route 3, and I think it could use a little different flair over there. Maybe some crepes, some nice Angus burgers, different menu. And
Okay. Right now, you don't own the building, do you?
no,
No, be leasing, okay.
but we plan to buy it within 2 years.
All right. Has everyone on the council had time to review the application in total? Okay.
Mr. President, if I
Yes.
may make a comment.
Yes.
Maybe you should sit with our legal department. There's some issues that we have in our package that is concerning to us, not that, so I'm a little reluctant with these issues, and you may want to sit down, and we have, different records and so on from different police departments, so we want to make sure that there's no issue, so I'm a little apprehensive about approving anything, so that's just my comment. You may want to make an appointment to sit down and talk with maybe our town manager or legal counsel or police or whatever, but I have some reservations.
Okay.
Okay, well, I guess as protocol, I'll ask for tonight, gentlemen's here, a motion to approve.
Public hearing's open.
That's true, it's still open. Comments from the public? Yes? I guess the answer was no?
No.
All right. All right. Any other comments from the public tonight? Yes, sir? Why don't you come forward? Yeah, why don't you come forward, if you could? I should have had,
Yeah, folks come.
yeah, if you could just step aside, sir. Name and address for,
Hi, my name is Bob St. Jean. I live at 35 Forestdale Drive,
okay,
right?
nearby.
And the thing with something like this is that when the other people, Ingolo Pizza.
Indigo, yep.
Yeah, was there, we would hear noises,
Okay.
especially on the weekends. All right, and they were supposed to be in the building, which didn't happen. In the summertime, they came out of the building, there was noise
Okay.
all night long. And I don't think it's a place, because the neighborhood is not geared
Yeah.
to something like this.
Oh, okay.
Just for the traffic itself, and for the noise that it's gonna have. Plus, we have a child's care center next door.
Right.
And there's another one, which I believe is something like a teenage across the street. I
Right.
mean, that's not any place for a nightclub, which I believe is gonna have live music, it's gonna have dancing, and maybe not be a strip club, but it's gonna come pretty close. And will there be police
Right.
there monitoring this?
Okay, I appreciate your comments, and
All
it's my personal district. I understand exactly what you're saying. Thank you. Do we have another comment from the public? Yes, ma'am, way in the back, if you could just come forward for the record, your name and address.
Hello, council people and town manager. My name is Mary Day. I'm the owner of 599 Tyoke.
Yes.
This gentleman is going to be leasing it for the next year or two and making it the same thing I had, probably even better. And as far as the noise, I haven't had any complaints in 8 years that I have no police records, them even showing
Can you
up.
adjust the council? I can't hear.
Yeah, if you could just,
Yeah, as far as
for the benefit
any
of
kind
everyone.
of trouble at Indigo, I've been open for 8 years, and no problem. Pay all my taxes.
Okay.
Like, I have no issues with the daycare next door. I run a respectable place, and I am sure he will do the same thing.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate your comments. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am, if you could come forward. Yeah.
Karen Deliberus, 49 Reed Avenue. I've been to Indigo, never had a problem with them, but the things that I've read about you and the problems in your other places that you've had, I think you might want to
Speak to us.
reconsider.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from the public? Any other comments from the public? Okay, if not, I'll entertain a motion to close public hearing.
Motion to close.
Have a second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. All right, well, I'll ask for a motion to approve at this time. Do I have anyone to make a motion to approve this application for a license at this time? Okay, so no motion to approve at this time. One councilman recommended that you might pursue another avenue, or at least an additional avenue. All right, thank you, sir, for coming out tonight. All right, next we have F on the agenda, general public comment at this time. General public comment at this time. Yes, sir. Hi there, Mr. Norman. If you could just name and address for the record.
Gordon Davignon, 8 Hickory Road, Coventry, Rhode Island. The reason why I'm speaking this evening is regarding the hike from National Grid. I own numerous houses in Coventry and West Warwick. Matter of fact, I own 7 homes. And I have 19 electric bills and gas bills. And I spoke to Miss Albanese, who was the manager that spoke up here, about the frustrations over the years with National Grid. Although they have gotten better, especially with their website to pay bills, but
Good point.
I get 19 bills, and they cannot consolidate. They don't have the ability to consolidate all of my accounts under one bill. The other problem I have is that I've gotten calls twice this week on my voicemail to call a number saying that I need to have a meter change. So I called the number, and they said, oh, you reached the wrong number. This is the Spanish line. I said, well, where am I supposed to talk? Well, they give me the 800 number. They transfer me over the 800 number. They asked me what my account is. I said, I don't know my account. They just said I need to call to have my gas meter changed. Well, which account? I have no idea. Let me go through the addresses. So I got 4 houses with natural gas. Nope, none of them are say that I need to have a gas meter changed. A few years ago, I had a new boiler put in through their program to say get a rebate of $1,500. That whole process took me a year to get $1,500 back, and I just found so much inefficiency with the company, and that's really my point.
Right.
Here they are, they're trying to ask for a hike increase, but they need to look at their internal organization because there is so much bureaucracy going on, so many departments, that they need to look at their own business and to start cutting costs within instead of just asking for pay hikes.
Right, okay.
It would be very difficult for me to go to my tenants to say, which I have not given them a rent increase over 5 years, to go to them and say, look, I need to give you a rent increase due to the fact that National Grid is asking for more money. And that's all I have to say.
Okay, well,
Thank you.
that's for sure. Thank you, Gordon, for coming. Any other comment? Yes. Mr. Asselone, come on forward. Good evening.
My name is John Asselone, 6 Veronica Court. A couple of issues, but some new ones since I've been here. I'm finding in the community right now that there's some kind of undercurrent, and I think if everybody wants to beat up their fellow politicians, be my guest. But I think some of it is going way overboard. And as far as corruptness in this community, in all the years I've been here, let me give you the example. The last person asked me for money. It was councilperson from Western Coventry. She asked me for money for the community. No one has ever dared ask me or anyone else that I know of, Councilman Carlson, for money. So if you think people are out there asking people for money, name them. Do something about it. Don't cast a net for public works. People that are volunteers on the sewer commission. And this kid, Glenn Skirka, who I really don't know, but if you have a question on sewers, you go to him if Stephanie can't answer it. Or you get the book, because you're right on all the rules and regulations of sewers. They are ridiculous. But these rules and regulations are all recorded. Start reading them. I understand where you're coming from for an audit, but read these regulations first, because it's almost impossible to understand them. I would go to get the copy of the regulations first and put them in layman's terms by what this means, what that means. But Glenn Skirk, I was here one night. One of the greatest answers I ever heard, we're talking about why give somebody a contract when they were causing problems in the community. And Glenn Skirk said, well, okay, if you give it to my company, all I'm going to do is go to that company, they're going to supply it. Now,
Remember that.
what more of an honest answer can you get? So this kid is just, don't lose him. Don't lose him. If you think of somebody that's taking money on the take, name them. If you don't want to do it publicly, go to the chief, go to the manager. You won't have any problems. But please, if you start talking about people that are on the take, I don't believe it exists from any department in any division. Another issue that I heard this evening regarding affordable housing going to the state, you bring this up every year. Unless the state unless you go to RIMFAC that will give people financing on so-called affordable housing, you're not going to go any place with that. So it's a good idea. It sounds good. It's not going to happen unless you go to RIMFAC. And as affordable housing goes, you want to call it affordable housing and you also want to charge an $8,000 impact fee on a $70,000 home and call it affordable housing when the percentage of children in a community of 500 homes is less than 0.5%. So I think you got to get your priorities in order. And the other reason I came this evening, I'll shut up and go away. I was here at the last meeting when you thanked the bank for coming, opening a new bank. That was great. But I'm going to show you where your biggest profit center is in the community. For working people, for Coventry. And this is how, and you've got one profit center here of over $250,000. And I'm not saying they should get credit because I'm part of that deal. I am a builder, I'm proud of it. But you have so much going on building in Coventry. It is an actual profit center for expenses. And yet, people are afraid to improve their homes and their commercial property. So I'm going to say it again. If you want a win-win situation for more money for Coventry, and that's a benefit for the homeowners and businesses, what you do is you give them a 10-year abatement for any improvements on their property. People do not want to improve their property because they think they're going to get immediately hit with taxes. Some of the properties on Main Street, probably go by it too often, are absolutely disgusting. They are disgusting. And you go down South Main Street, used to have carriage houses, right? Terrible. There was a lady around here many years ago, Lil Thurston, and she was really driving people nuts with improving old properties. Well, the places in the community are in shambles. And some of these people do it because they are, I don't want to say bad landlords. It's up to them to conduct their own business. Some of them do it because they just won't improve their property. Well, you should get on these people, have them improve their property, but also give them a benefit. If they pay $5,000 or $10,000 to improve the property, it is good for workers. It's good for the community. It beautifies the community. And what do you lose? What do you actually lose if you let them fix their property and they get an exemption on the portion that they fix for a period of years? So I'm going to see how you can go wrong. Residents get it, businesses get it, and the community starts to look better. I'm just going to pass this out to give you the figures.
Thank you, Mr. Essalone. Made a lot of good points for sure. Any other comments? Yes, sir. Thanks, sir. Yes, sir. Name and address, sir, for the record.
My name's Paul McGrath. I live at 91 Calvintown Road. Okay. I also own the property at the front of the gun range, 7678. That's not what I want to talk about right now. I've attended every town meeting over the last 6 weeks. Granted, I didn't do it in the past. I've been quite a few years since I've been, but I'd like to speak about the planning board. I've spoken with a number of you members up there. You say you don't want to influence them, and I understand that, and I agree. But you do appoint them. I attended the last planning meeting, which involved the solar array. And I attended the meeting prior to that, which had the gun range. At the solar array meeting, there was a 2.5-hour public speaking. At the gun range, there was none. My wife got up for 30 seconds, and she was shut down. I don't understand the inconsistency between these two meetings. You swear you're in two different towns. I mean, I don't understand why you can have public speaking at one meeting and none at the other. Now, the solar array unanimously got denied. It's not anywhere as grievous as this gun range. So I can't understand how the planning board can do something like that and look at the gun range and have a 3-3 tie. It's just ridiculous. Okay. The other thing is, I went on the website for the town today, and they have 3 calendars. two calendars said the meeting was tonight, another calendar said the meeting is tomorrow night. It's ridiculous. I mean, every time you go on there to try to find a date of a meeting, you got to go through 2 or 3 calendars. I don't understand why it has to be so confusing. The other point I want to bring up is the gun range. I don't know whether the town is aware that the town owns the property on Plat 330, Lot 79. It's just under 16 acres. It is within 600 feet of the gun range. So, the town is an aggrieved resident. I would like to put before the board, as being an aggrieved resident, that you bring up the matter and come to some kind of decision on making a recommendation, as the school committee did. I understand your reluctance to do that, but as a property owner, the town owns a property, it's affected by this gun range. I would like to see that resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for coming out tonight and the time. Yes, gentleman over there. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Marty Kudrowitz from Raymond Street here in Coventry. I'd like to make a recommendation. I talk to a lot of people about how they go into town meetings like now, and they have no idea how to get that information that there is a town meeting. Now, the people say, well, we get it on the internet, and a lot of people don't have computers, and they don't know where to look. And I thought possibly, everybody gets the Coventry Reminder, and a lot of people do read it. But if we had some information, sort of like a town crier on page 2, where it's always there, and whenever you're going to have a meeting, that it be posted on that page, and anything pertaining to the town, where people might be interested in finding out what's happening with town things, items. That is where they will always look. And people will always know that if they get the Coventry Reminder, they can identify that there's going to be a town meeting and maybe a summary of what it's about, so that they will attend and get more involved in what's going to happen in their town.
Okay, well, thank you, sir. It makes sense.
Okay.
Appreciate it. And anyone else? Yes, in the back. Well, either one. Good evening.
Hi, Janice Stinson, 670 Naughty Oak Road. I just had a quick question. We went over, you approved the minutes for November 27th, but you also did October 16th. Why was that tonight?
Because they appeared before us tonight, and I think they were working on them. Yeah, the transcript was quite lengthy on that, and I think that was the reason that Mrs. George, who's not here tonight, but was able to get it before us tonight for approval.
And she's going to be retiring
And
soon,
it is
right?
on the website, yes.
She's going to be retiring soon, right? When is that date?
I think the official date, Mr. Manager,
I'm
Mrs.
sorry, what was the
George,
question?
the official date, Mrs. George
I
is
believe is the 19th. Yes.
That's what I've read. The December 19th, I think, will be her final working day.
And she's been here for how long?
She started out 44 years ago. She left for a time being and came back. So we say greater
Safe to
than
say
40 years.
Over 40 years.
40 years or so. So the town's going to do something really nice for her, right?
Okay. She just didn't
Thank
come
you.
tonight. We did. All right. Yes, one more. Yep. Good evening.
Good evening. James LeBlanc, 43 Azure Street. So, on September 10th, 2015, 4 of the 5 current town council members were present at a town council meeting. Sewers were discussed. It says, when the cost of the project in Quidnick was calculated out, and considering all the ledge in that area of town and the blasting that would need to be done, each homeowner would have to pay about $21,000. Admittedly, the Quidnick area is the least economically advantaged area of town, with a lot of rental property, and this was just not affordable. So it goes on to say that Town Councilwoman Carlson asked how much a tie-in would be. And Town Councilman McGee responded by saying it would be about $6,000 to $10,000, depending if it was residential or if it was a company. I guess what I'm asking is, I'm questioning the wisdom of the town council. If we couldn't afford the $21,000 assessment, I don't see how we would be able to afford the 6% interest over 20 years, which would be an additional $15,000, or the tie-in of $6,000. I just don't know why the Quidnick area is even a contract on the 2016 facilities plan update. Because when I first came to these meetings, I was called a disgruntled taxpayer, but clearly you guys knew that we couldn't afford it. And my other point I wanted to make tonight was, as part of a public documentation request, I received all the bids for Hazard Street. What was interesting was there was 6 total bids, and 4 of them were mechanically time-stamped, and 2 of them had the time written in. And shockingly, the 2 that were written in were the lowest bidders. So it seems suspicious as to why those 2 were written in. So that's my point tonight. I just hope that the wisdom of this town council continues the moratorium to figure out a correct way of getting us out of this financial disaster that we're currently in.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment? Any other public comment? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Merry Christmas to everybody. Okay. Happy holidays is right. Happy Hanukkah, too. I got that in today, you know. I did, you know. You can't leave out Hanukkah. And you got to get to bed. I hope you were breathing to the left and not the right. I'm only kidding. Sorry, Dave. Thanks. Hey, David, thanks for bailing out your sick partner, Nick. My God. Diane, Diane. Yeah, do I have anything to, Debbie, right?
Hi, Gordon. Merry Christmas to you, too.
Gordon, thank